Miglosh for the Wisconsin DMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Wow, we got some fun stuff today. It's much more fun today than it was yesterday. Yesterday was a little angst around the world. You know, Bernie Sanders and Mayor Pete, are neck and neck, and the results are still not in. Like 4 days later, it just shows you. It just shows you. And I went over some of the math on those worksheets, and it is challenging. But let's go on to more funny stuff. Okay, so Tom Fishburne says our new ad is so entertaining and celebrity packed, people will think it's for a hit movie instead of whatever our brand is again. And there's some great stuff in Tom's thing today. This is great. You know, you should read Tom's thing and you should subscribe. Marketunis.com. You can subscribe to his newsletter or weekly comments. Here's the best stuff down in here. It's not enough to just read the cartoon. You got to read the stuff. World's biggest marketing stage, so it's always educational to see how brands place their bets. The stakes are high with 5.6 million for the 30-second media, and Fox said they raked in like 500 million, $500 million in that couple of hours. Woo! Anyway, so in the most recent Super Bowl advertising studies, which I'm going to check out, from Communicus 2017, they found that 80% of Super Bowl ads fail to significantly impact, or ads failed significant impact for their brand. Deliver or something should be in there. Okay, and more telling, 64% of Super Bowl viewers couldn't connect a memorable ad to the brand that was advertising. So as much fun as we have looking at Super Bowl ads, what's the level of engagement? None. Nothing. Okay, now that could be the fault of the ads. But as I pointed out in last week's shows, the more engaging the show, and it was a great game, super great game, I thought, one of the best ever. As the more engaging the show, the less likely you are to deal with the ads. You know, you got to take a break. You got to get to those nacho chips and guacamole. Anyway, so this year, more companies than ever invested in elaborate teaser campaigns. And I did see, someone said you could see the ads ahead of time. Not mostly. Mostly you're just seeing the teasers. Now, in the case of Planters Peanut, the teaser was far better than their actual ad. Their actual ad stunk, if you ask me, and it basically made the teaser look like total clickbait lies. I buy the Food Club peanuts. Okay, and you got to be careful. Down here he says, in the pursuit of ads as entertainment, what too often gets lost is the brand behind the ad. Right. You can remember the cheese popcorn, right? Doritos is great. Forward front the product. What about the Jeep ad? And YouTube made me trim that out of my show. It's the first time I've ever had to trim an ad out, and I do ad comments all the time. And I don't know why, but probably because it was awful in the sense that the groundhog and Bill Murray were center stage. Nobody missed that part. But where was the Jeep logo in all of it? There was one opening shot of Jeep Navigator, and then there was a closing shot of Jeep Navigator, or Jeep Gladiator, I think. See, I don't even know. And it was my favorite commercial. No, it was my kid's favorite commercial. Okay, now I'm trying to remember what my favorite commercial was. The Doritos one was good. I can't even remember my favorite. Go back and read an earlier show. Point being, engagement is incredibly difficult. Because if no one watches the show, no one sees the ad, right? If you put your ads on sites people don't like, banner ads, digital ads, they're not there. People can eliminate the sidebars, right? And even when people see it, if they don't need it right now, they tune it out, even if they're going to need it in 2 more days. They don't have enough. They've already erased it. Very difficult. Very, very difficult. There's some great ones here. Time to come back. The commercials are starting. Yeah, that kind of didn't happen at our house. This, I thought, was an incredibly great, interesting idea. Okay, we should, you know, we should figure out an app or something to rate the pairs of commercials that appear side by side, just up and down. The trouble is we can't get head to heads later. And boy, if there was a way to do that, compare this to that, compare to this to that, compare to this to that, which one's best? Could be fun. I think it could. I'll have to reach out to Tom on that one. Anyway, moving on. Okay, so Google for the first time ever disclosed YouTube ad revenue, and it was over 15 billion. I think it was over 16 billion. It was a lot. Now the whole trade industry said, "Oh, look how great Google is." And although Google's total revenue, I'm not sure if it was total revenue growth, but I think it was total revenue was down. I think it must have been growth. How could they be down? Anyway, but here's why they finally released the results. You probably won't hear this anywhere else. In 2014, revenue recognition rules were approved that went into effect in 2017. Companies were required to report financial results in the same general way, in the same manner as they were reported to the main decision maker of the company. Okay? Now, so if the chief executive officer sees all of Google's revenue as one big glop, which they won't, because you can't tweak in one glop. You got to look at different divisions. You got to look what's winning, what's losing. Then you can tell that to the investors. But if you break it down, then you got to break it down. So what happened was, this is interesting. Alphabet CEO Larry Page didn't see the parsed results of subdivisions of Google, right? But Sundar Pichai did. Okay? So, just recently, Page and his co-founder, Sergey, stepped down, and Pichai became the CEO, chief decision maker at Alphabet, which meant that, and he'd already admitted that he saw the results segmented. So, now we get the results from YouTube and Google. It's called regulated capitalism. Let's disclose the truth for the free market to work. And for that reason, YouTube and Google Cloud are now released. Interesting. I thought that was really interesting. Maybe you didn't. Sephora to open 100 stores. And I just thought this was great. The beauty retailer owned by Louis Vuitton. I like Louis Vuitton because they invest in big, fast, ridiculous sailboats that cruise along at 25 knots or 40 knots or whatever. Okay, so it's opening 100 more stores, doubling its growth from 2019. Beauty and fragrance and hair care. Fragrances and hair care, what's interesting, of course, is that that's tougher to do on TV, on banner ads. There's a lot of things you can buy, but fragrances are probably not the best one. Okay, although there are some, okay. Anyway, so some good news in that marketplace. Now, I want to get to this. The hustle is the biggest pain in the neck. You can't reproduce their articles. I've tried. Finally, I just cut and pasted it into OpenOffice and printed that one out. They had an article yesterday. Target marketing should note this. Ad targeting tech goes old school with snail mail. Okay, so now if you visit a website, it's possible that in a day or two or three, probably 2 or 3 days, you get a postcard or something in the mail talking about maybe what you looked at, or maybe just the store that with a coupon or something to visit. Okay, this was probably the biggest breakthrough we had with Lovesac that I worked with. I mean, what we did was we started by doing catalog machine learning AI modeling and holdout tests to figure out the value of the catalog, because I think they really wanted to shut it down. And we proved that it had 300% ROI 900% ROI if you counted nearby people. And I've shared this before, and they've shared it too. So, good ROI. Let's just say good ROI on the catalog. And I said, since that's so good, I think we can prospect with it, and we also ought to test traffic building with postcards. And so we started split testing offers, and we found some offers that were dramatically better. One or two, one especially, that was dramatically better, that got people to the stores. And then we started doing this process with Ellis Direct over in Connecticut and Brian over there. And I didn't do that. They did it. Lovesec did it. Brian did it. I had nothing to do with it, except that I was proving mail for 2 years up to that point, which is, so I guess I get some credit. And so the Hustle stumbled on Pebble Post and said, wow, data science and machine learning to identify visitors who are most likely to actually buy something. Well, here's the tricky part. For every 100,000, and I've talked to probably at least a half a dozen companies that represent the same kind of thing. For every 100,000 visitors to your website, half leave right away. Okay, so we're not going to send them anything because we don't even know if they meant to be there. Bounce rate, that's public information also. And then what we do is try to figure out who they are, and that gets us down about another. Only about a third can we even figure it out. And so that's now down to 1/6. So that would be 15%, little more, 18%. And then and then, have you ever taken one of those free trials or downloaded an app and they say, are you open to other offers? If you catch it, you might uncheck the box out of 100,000. So you have to have a pretty popular website to make this work. You have to have a compelling offer. You have to have something that's really going on, right? So the article asks, why are they targeting you old school style? The idea is if the offer is in your real mailbox, you might actually look at it, right? Well, we just illustrated with the Super Bowl and digital ads yesterday that it's very difficult to make that work. Whereas this says, here's somebody that's interested, and we want to get their attention. And it may be a little more expensive, but it's way, 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 way more engaging, especially since almost no one's opening their mail. I mean, almost no one, you can't ignore your mail. Almost no one's getting mail. So it works really well. And then they ask, is this even legal? Yeah, it's legal, perfectly legal. As the U.S. Supreme Court ruled long ago, the distance from your mailbox to the trash can is sufficiently short as to not constitute an invasion of privacy. So if you haven't looked into this, feel free to contact me. I know a bunch of vendors that are happy to set this up, but as I said, you have to have quite a few visitors. And it works best, another friend of mine in an agency, Grant Johnson, did a test, and they accumulated the visitors over like 6 weeks and then sent them a catalog, and people forgot which website they visited, and it was too late. You got to get it. You got to be fast. And so if you don't have like 100,000 people a day, even then it's only a couple of thousand. And I'm not saying you have to have 100,000. I'm just saying 20,000. You have to have a pretty good daily unique visitor count to make this thing viable, because there is some setup and stuff, and it just won't yield enough ultimate visitors or ultimate buyers to get past. But if you're big, it'll work. It does work. It works great. I'm John Miglosh. Like and share. Your friends will think you're smart. Bye-bye.